That way, if anyone misses today, they can catch us up a little bit later on. But welcome, everyone. Welcome to another Connect and Share on a Friday morning. We've already been Zooming this morning with a great session from the Australian Business Lawyers and Advisors, catching us up on case law. And I think we've all come away from that session quietly stunned about the impact that that has on our industry. But before we get into a bit of that today, I firstly want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of which we all meet today. And they're not just in Australia, we're actually overseas as well today. And may I pay my respects to our traditional owners, past, present, and obviously the emerging leaders from our Aboriginal communities, which we need to endorse their understanding of the land of which they have grown to understand and appreciate and use for their livelihoods as we do every day. And may the outdoor industry really connect with that and work with them. And quite timely that, you know, today we're going to be talking with Reconciliation Australia and how we do that better by the way of reconciliation action plans. But yes, let's kick off because I've got a bit of an update on everything Outdoors New South Wales and ACT for everyone. For those in the broader industry, you would have got the March newsletter giving you a bit of a snapshot on what was. This is now moving forward into April already. I'm not playing any April Fool's jokes. I'm not a good one for that. I do not have, I've got the worst poker face. So forget that. I'm not providing any jokes this morning. But let's kick on. Our mentoring program is in a great stage. We've moved out of the March Small Business Month where the mentees and the mentors got some incredible insight into the risk and management of our industry, the AAAS, and really digged deep into really what their responsibility is when it comes to these types of tools. We are now moving into the next phase of the mentoring program, which goes into certainly a little bit more depth on professional and personal development. So thanks to Claire Dallett, Liz Horn, who are amazing speakers in the last month, and also to Patty Palin for their ongoing support of programs like this. And of course, thanks to Small Business Month, who was able to help us put this on and jam it full of content in the month of March. Nature Play is growing in New South Wales. Who would have thought it? Nature Play insights and recommendations was provided by Centennial Parklands, which is now the Greater Sydney Parklands, midway through last year. Since then, we've had a focus group, a steering group, if you like, that have been looking at the recommendations and how we can actually implement that in New South Wales, being the last state to really forge ahead in leadership in Nature Play. So pleased to say that we are making great progress in this area. I'm dying to tell you all where we end up with it, but it's a little bit too early to tell you where that's landed. But I just wanted to assure those that are in this sector that there's a lot of activity and discussion happening in this space, and we'll bring that to you very soon. The curriculum reform next stage for New South Wales is now live. So you might have seen in a members newsletter a couple of weeks ago, the years 3 to 6, 7 to 10 English and maths is now on exhibition, so to speak, and able for you to comment. So I urge anyone that is looking at ways to engage this curriculum in outdoor spaces to get in there and have your say. The more that do that, we can actually instill that understanding that the outdoor classroom is good for all curriculum, and making sure we put in those soft skills that they get from our opportunities. The link is on the bottom of your screen there if you're interested, or go back to your members newsletter a couple of weeks ago and you'll find the link embedded. We've been doing a lot in the career activity, and I know I've discussed this with you at length in relation to how we build people to get them into the industry straight from school and onwards. So I've been working with the REAP team, and I can't remember what REAP stands for, but it is the Department of Education team that looks at how they connect with kids at school and look at their career opportunities going forward. So Helen is going to the Blue Mountains Youth Week, which is a great activity that they're doing. The Blue Mountain City Council are doing that. There's also a Lithgow REAP activity that we're working on as well to get more kids understanding what they can do. But just on the Youth Week, it's on April 10. So if any one of our members is in the Blue Mountains area or around We encourage you, if you want to come along and stand with Helen at the stand and talk to kids about careers in the outdoors, but also get them involved in the activity that Helen's going to be running. And if you want to provide any prizes or any merchandise to promote your organisation, please let Helen know. She's with us today. You can certainly message her through the chat or just email programs@outdoorsnewsouthwalesact.com.au. The other activity, there's a REAP initiative with the Dubbo Adventure Camp, and they're taking kids right across Western New South Wales looking at different options for careers with the disadvantaged youth that they are working with. On June 2nd, I will be presenting the outdoors to the students that attend that camp. So another great initiative by REAP. And the career path guide for schools and career advisors, we're just working on getting that finalised so we can distribute that far and wide through the state, the territory, and anyone else that wishes to see the career path opportunities that they can have. Members update. This is an important step for all our members to make sure that their details are up to date, that they're getting the information that we are sharing to members. And we encourage you to jump onto that survey or click that QR code with your camera this morning. It'll take you to that members update page. The reason we're doing this is not to just capture some of the transition of staff and locations and so forth, but we are migrating into a new platform for our website. So we want to make sure that you are getting the content that you need and deserve and want from us through your membership. So can you please make sure that you update your details? And remember, for every organisation that's a member, you've got up to 5 contacts that can be part of getting that correspondence. If you're a large organisation, obviously goes up further to 15 contacts and so on and so forth. So jump in, update your details. It's incredibly important. The program that we are about to officially announce, we've got the EOI open for right now, which is a grant-funded project through the ACT government, and it's empowering ACT women to look at the options of the outdoors for their future through a mentoring program similar to the one we're running now, but short and sharp for outdoor ACT women. Now, all mentors, you don't have to be women, you can be another gender and certainly partake in that and support the women in Canberra and surrounds. So if you are in Canberra and you want to be part of this program, please make sure you register. And if you want to be a mentor, please register as well. It's an expressions of interest that'll be open for April, and we'll be kicking this off in June. So pending opportunities, I'm frustrated on the fact that it still says pending, but we are only in April now, and I have been saying to you that this will be available in April. I'm working with the Department of Education on making sure that this announcement and the opportunity to apply for this fund is as quick as possible. We know that obviously the effects of Term 4 last year were detrimental, but I think what I've stressed to the department right now is the rain events is even more detrimental to a lot of our operators right now. So this money is incredibly important to get out to you as quickly as possible. There's a lot of events coming up, and I just thought I'd throw this up in case any of you were interested in attending some of these. But Outdoors New South Wales and ACT will be represented at the following events. So Blue Mountains Youth Week on April 10, the ACHPA ACT Teacher Professional Development Session on April 20. That's a Zoom initiative. The 35th Environmental Education Conference on the Central Coast on April 21 to 23, where I'll be speaking there. The Local Government Visitor Economy Conference, May 17 to 19. ACHPA running a teachers conference on May 20. The Outdoors Victoria Conference on May 26, 27. The camp, which we've already mentioned. PLA conference for New South Wales and ACT. That's the Parks and Leisure Australia conference. That was meant to be held in Lismore in May. Unfortunately, obviously for obvious reasons, it won't be then, but as a councillor on that body, we are very committed to holding it in Lismore to make sure that we assist them in their recovery. And may I also express my thoughts and prayers to all those in Lismore and the flood affected areas right now, that they have the resilience to get through this and focus on the future. the National Outdoor Education Conference that we'll be hosting in Lura in September, and then the Australian Regional Tourism Conference in October. I have no idea where I'm actually going to be home, but that's okay. But it's going to be a great opportunity to showcase our industry at all those different events, and that's certainly something you can have a look at. Next week on our Connect and Share, we're going to have Hugh Sutherland talk about the pay and conditions summary data, which he put this out to the industry to get some feedback. Obviously, you can't see on the screen, it's quite small because I want him to present it next week, and we'll go into a little bit more depth on that. But today we have the beautiful Billie, who is going to talk to us about reconciliation action plans. So Billie, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I know it's a topic that I've certainly spoken to a lot of our members about and encouraged them to look at this, as well as ourselves as an organisation to look at. So I'm going to hand over to you. I'm going to be quiet for a change and let you take over.
Thanks so much, Laurie. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's well. I'm just going to share my screen now, so give me a moment while I get that sorted. All right, just let me know if you can't see anything there. Right, so today I'm just going to be doing kind of a run through of who Reconciliation Australia is, as well as what the RAP program is and the benefits of being involved with us, and also some tips for developing a successful RAP, and then also as well kind of launching into a bit more about the outdoors industry and how just some tips for how you can develop a really good RAP in terms of leveraging your sphere of influence as well. So super excited to be talking to you today and meet all of you. Just before I kick into the content, I too want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I'm zooming in from. So I'm on Gadigal land today, very rainy and wet. And I just really want to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Okay, so just launch into what Reconciliation Australia is. So just for a bit of background, we were formerly the Council for Aboriginal Reconciliation from 1991 to 2000. In 2000, the council recommended, thank you. So the council recommended the formation of an independent non-government organisation to support reconciliation in Australia, which led to Reconciliation Australia being established in January 2001. So we are the lead body for reconciliation in the nation. We're independent, we're a not-for-profit organisation, and we promote and facilitate reconciliation by building relationships between the wider Australian community and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, as well as really building respect and trust, which is so important to this work. I'm also just going to really briefly touch on the 5 dimensions of reconciliation, which you can see on the right there. So these are the dimensions that we have identified as the areas that need to be addressed in order to realise reconciliation in Australia. So they're race relations, equality and equity, institutional integrity, historical acceptance and unity. So these dimensions have the ultimate goal of removing barriers to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander self-determination. So this is the overarching, I guess, theory of change that we're working towards within the RAP program, and it's really the foundation that RAPs are built on. So in an organisational sense, this is about creating culturally safe workplaces to appreciate and benefit from the brilliance and ingenuity of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as well. So I'm just going to launch into what a RAP is. So in a tangible sense, a RAP is a strategy document that organisations develop to support and advance the reconciliation movement. So this is a plan that maps out how organisations can turn good intentions into tangible actions and create a structured and strategic approach to supporting change within your organisation's unique sphere of influence. So all RAPs are unique. They're tailored to organisations' business, industry and context as well. So they're a business plan with really strong reportable targets, which really allows reconciliation to be bedded into your organisation's work. It's really important just to note as well that RAPS and the RAP program is really not about a one-time accreditation to us. So for us, this is about an ongoing journey for reconciliation with your organisation. And just to touch on that as well, we have our RISE framework that I'm just going to go through super quickly for you as well. I probably should have said this in the start too. If you have any questions at all, just feel free to pop them into the chat, and we've got like a Q&A session at the end, so we can chat through anything there as well, but feel free to pop anything in and I'll answer them as we go. So these are our 4 RAP types that we have. Our Reflect RAP is kind of the entry-level RAP that a lot of organisations enter into the program in. So this is about doing a lot of that foundational research that that's involved in creating long-term change. So this RAP steps out the steps for preparing your organisation to begin implementing and embedding reconciliation initiatives. So this is investigative, it's exploratory, it really allows your organisation to spend time scoping and developing relationships with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander stakeholders, deciding on your vision for reconciliation and beginning to explore and understand your unique sphere of influence as well. So the Reflect RAP is really that foundational work, which is so, so important. We also have our Innovate RAP types. This allows a pathway for organisations to begin to trial new initiatives and innovative ways of thinking to see what works for your organisation. And Innovate RAP really focuses on developing and strengthening relationships with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, engaging staff and stakeholders in reconciliation, and developing and piloting strategies to empower Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. So Innovate RAPs, they're really a natural progression and a next step from a Reflect RAP. So they build on that foundational work that you're doing in a Reflect RAP to begin to implement initiatives. We also have our Stretch and Elevate RAPs, which I'll just touch on super briefly. So these are for partners who have had experience developing 2 to 3 RAPs beforehand. So they're organisations who have really solidified their best practices in this space, and they're ready to play more of a leadership role within the RAP program and also within the sector themselves. So you can go onto our website, and we publicly publish all organisations who have a RAP with us, and you can see some of the incredible work that's being done by organisations. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the breadth of our program as well, just so you can really see the impact that RAPs are having. So we currently have over 2,000 organisations with an endorsed RAP, and this is impacting almost 3 million Australians. So each financial year, RAP organisations participate in our RAP Impact Measurement Questionnaire. So this is our annual reporting requirement for all of our RAP partners. And this really allows you to report on your year-on-year progression within your organisation and highlights those really positive indicators that demonstrate progress. So it's really, really great to see. We can see from these yearly reports that RAPs are delivering significant value to organisations. So whether this is in tangible value in terms of contracts and business generated, or intangible value in form of a more culturally safe workplace, and also the reputational advantage of being part of the RAP network. So we also know from program evaluation that over 50% of procurement from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander businesses is directly attributable to the fact that organisations have had a RAP in place. So RAPs really do signify a strategic and sustained way to advance reconciliation. And they're also changing the way that people think and feel about reconciliation. So we have a biannual RAP Impact Barometer, which organisations can opt into. It's not mandatory at all, but this really allows us to measure the impact that RAPs are having on the attitude and behaviour of employees compared to the general Australian community. So it's a really great way to see those changes that are happening. And just to highlight this as well, there are over 300,000 RAP employees who have participated in cultural learning because their organisation had a RAP in place. So I've got here some tips for a successful RAP development journey, but before I launch into them, I might just talk a tad more about the process of actually developing a RAP and what that looks like. So the first step for developing a RAP is to register through our website. Super easy process, and Once you register, you receive like a resource pack from us. So this has our templates with templates for our different RAP types, as well as a whole heap of guide and resources to really help you through that initial development phase. So once you have drafted your first RAP and you submit that through that portal, then you'll be introduced to your RAP officer. So your RAP officer is that primary point of contact for you throughout the entire process. And they're really there to guide you through the development process. So they're there to answer any questions that you're going to have throughout the process. We've also got heaps of different touch points for you to connect with our team as well throughout the whole process. We're really there to support you and guide you through. So there's normally 2 to 4 rounds of feedback for those kind of reflect and innovate RAP types, and before you kind of reach those stages of conditional and formal endorsement. That's when you begin to implement your RAP and you can publicly promote it as well, and you become a part of the RAP network, which is, it's over 2,000 organisations across so many different sectors. So the advantage of being part of that RAP network is huge. But I will launch into some tips for you as well. So the first one that we've got there is to plan for realistic timeframes. So we allow 12 months for RAP organisations once they complete registration to submit that first draft to us. And we understand that it's normally doesn't take 12 months to kind of develop that first draft, but we really want RAPs to be a meaningful document for your organisation. So this is not just a tick the box exercise. We want to support an efficient process that's going to support momentum and really sustain your RAP, but it's really counterproductive to try and rush that process. I mean, there is a reason that RAPs are so highly regarded and valued across Australia, and it's because we're creating a plan that is holistic and thorough as well. So planning for realistic timeframes is super important throughout the process. We also, on the back of that, we really encourage you to communicate with us and our team any time pressures or delays that you're facing. So we know and understand that RAP partners expect an efficient RAP review, but it's really helpful for our team to understand if there's going to be a delay on your end, or if there's also any specific deadline pressures that you're facing. So just for your context, there's a team of 12 of us who are working with over 2,000 organisations. So a lot of the time there is also dealing with time pressures as well, and particularly around events like National Reconciliation Week, which is coming up, you can see behind me as well, and also NAIDOC Week as well. We can get really busy, and we will always be completely open and honest with you and communicate if there's anything happening on our end, and we expect that same from our RAP partners as well. So that's the second tip. And the third tip is to come to an office hours session. So you can do this at any stage in the process. It's quite a new initiative within the team, and we're running them weekly. And we've had such positive feedback about them. You can just drop in, anyone from your organisation can come in. You can drop into a session even if you haven't registered yet to develop a RAP. It's a really great way to answer any questions that you're having about development and also about implementation. So it's also a really great opportunity to meet our team and meet the people that are behind this, and it's a great peer learning opportunity as well, because there's other organisations that are in there and you can understand and hear more about them from people that are on the same journey as you. So a really great opportunity to connect. So now I'm going to jump into some kind of opportunities and potential for the outdoors industry. So I guess I just want to preface by saying that each RAP officer kind of has a portfolio of organisations that they work with, and mine is not the outdoors industry. I actually normally work with the legal and financial services organisations, so a bit different, but we do have a RAP officer who's dedicated to working with the outdoors industry, and they have done some work. We actually had some uni students come in and do like a review of potential for organisations that are working in this space, and to really do an analysis of work that's currently being done. So they've put together this. It's not me, but there's some really great work, and I'm just going to highlight some examples and some resources for you as well that you can have a look into that's going to be beneficial for you as you're on this journey. So the first one that we have is to promote First Nations tourism. So there's some really great examples of organisations that are doing work in this space. So Tourism Australia has a program around discovering Aboriginal experiences. So there's really a great potential for organisations to be able to shine a spotlight on First Nations led experience through dedicated programs and campaigns, which I mean is really built on that foundational partnerships with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and organisations throughout this process. So there's also some potential. I mean, there's so much potential in terms of cultural learning as well, and ensuring cultural appropriate products within, I guess, the outdoors industry as well. So Intrepid is an example of an org who's doing some really great work around travel itineraries and developing cultural appropriate travel itineraries, and have done some amazing partnerships with First Nations organisations in that space. So an org that I'd really recommend checking out as well. So the second tip that we've got is incorporating First Nations histories and cultures within existing infrastructure, attractions, experience and programs. So this is more so touching on that point about really facilitating cultural learning within your organisation, and how you can begin to be embedding First Nations histories into the work that you're doing within your organisation. So there's a couple of examples of this that I might highlight. So Tasmanian Parks and Wildlife Service have a kind of, they've partnered with the Aboriginal Land Council of Tasmania and have developed it's the Wakalina Walk. So this is owned and operated by local Aboriginal people in the area, and it's a really great example of that kind of partnership that has occurred, that people are benefiting from now as well. Bush Heritage Australia is another example of an organisation that has a lot of Aboriginal partnerships, and there's a lot of different initiatives that are led and being run by the traditional owners of the land as well, which is super, super great. Also, just wanted to touch on ensuring sustainable experiences that care for country. So this is a huge kind of part of that consultation and inclusion of First Nations people within the development and operation of programs, and just really embedding those partnerships within the work of your organisations. And also there's a huge opportunity to be able to facilitate the use of First Nations language and traditional owner. I'm working with traditional owners to really, I guess, elevate the voice and, using appropriate acknowledgement of the land and the country that you're on is just so foundational, and there's so much ability for organisations in this kind of space to work and build on that. So also developing, partnering with First Nations-led experiences. So Intrepid, again, doing some really great work on this. I think this might be a little bit outdated actually, but I know that they have experiences led by Aboriginal guides in the Daintree National Park in Queensland, and they connect travellers with local First Nations families. So they're using it's on these First Nation families' lands, and they're educating people about that area's history and challenges as well. And just another thing to highlight as well, I actually don't know much about the Respect Our Culture certification, but it was developed by Aboriginal Tourism Australia and administered by Ecotourism Australia. So it's really been produced through ongoing consultation with First Nations communities, industry stakeholders and tourism operators. So I'm not really sure what that would look like and how appropriate it is for all organisations, but just something that I thought I'd put in there for you to have a look at and see if there's any potential there. That's kind of the end of me talking almost. Just on this last slide, I've got some resources for you. So on the left there is quite a few First Nations peak bodies in the area that you can connect with, and that a lot of organisations have connected with in the past that do some really, really incredible work. And then on the right is just some organisations that I mentioned. Actually, I didn't mention the National Trust, but they do a lot of work in terms of that, acknowledging the traditional countries that they're working on. So I think they have a lot in terms of media, so they do it through signage and brochures and websites as well, and that has really been done in consultation and ongoing relationships with the traditional custodians of the land to ensure that they're using the correct names for country and for language groups as well, which is really an important thing to note. I guess it's really about building those ongoing relationships with First Nations communities and organisations, and that's what the foundation of reconciliation is built on. It's built on relationships and it's built on trust. So just in terms of wraps, Intrepid and Tourism Australia both have Innovate wraps with us that I'd recommend checking out on our website, and all of our published wraps have contacts, so you can always get in contact with orgs if you want to hear more about the work that they're doing. And I mean, so many organisations in the RAP network are so open to this kind of collaborative learning, and it's such a great thing to be part of this network. And then the last 3 orgs there are just examples that I'd mentioned of orgs that are doing some work in this space. But with that, I'll probably stop talking and maybe hand it over to you guys if you've got any questions at all for me.
Brilliant, Billie. I've got quite a few different questions I'd love to ask, but if anyone wants to ask Billie any questions, please either raise your hand or jump in, and certainly let it be known. But Billie, a lot of our organisations are small businesses, you know, and the examples that that you had there is sort of around some of the bigger organisations adapting wraps. What's the advantage of small businesses looking at this? Have you seen some good outcomes from small organisations doing wraps?
Yeah, honestly, definitely. I think that there is, I don't want to say more potential, but I think for smaller organisations, it's almost better to be having a wrap, because then you're embedding that reconciliation, these initiatives into your organisation when it's in this smaller, when it's smaller, it means that more of your employees are going to be, it's going to be embedded within the foundation of your organisation, which is what we are all about. And a lot of larger organisations really struggle with that, whereas smaller organisations are actually able to do that in such a better way. And then there's the ability for when organisations expand or when they grow, then that means that reconciliation is growing with your organisation and it's embedded into the foundation of the work that you do. So it's those organisations where we see such incredible initiatives coming out of, which is so extraordinary.
Yeah, wonderful. And a question on, like, there might be some organisations out there that haven't even connected with traditional custodians or groups or people that might be from the clan in which they're doing their program. What's your advice there? How do they start? You know, how do they actually? Yeah, where do they start?
Yeah, it's a great question, and honestly, it's hard. There's no simple answer. I guess there's no cookie cutter approach. We do recommend reaching out to Aboriginal land councils as your first kind of point of call and building those relationships with them, and they're normally able to put you more in touch with the traditional owners and different First Nations community groups and organisations more at that grassroots level, so that you're able to build those relationships from the ground up. So I guess that's really part of that kind of foundational work that's involved in a Reflect wrap and into that Innovate wrap space as well. It's about building those foundational relationships and making those initial connections, and you'll find that as you start to make them, they naturally grow and flourish and move forward through your journey.
So do you recommend they do that first, reach out to those groups before they even start on a journey of a wrap?
Well, the Reflect wrap, honestly, there's a lot of kind of deliverables that are built into the Reflect wrap about beginning that work. So the Reflect wrap is really about doing that investigatory work. So yeah, it's really all about identifying the First Nations stakeholders within your sphere of influence and beginning to reach out and build those relationships. So that's all within the Reflect Wrap. It's really designed for organisations who have, I mean, it's the beginning. So it's really built for organisations who have no experience. Yeah.
I think a lot of people think that they should be down this path before they even look at a reconciliation action plan. So what I wanted to highlight through your feedback then is, you know, this is a way to start engaging. I've got a question that I was filtered from a member of ours who, and this might be out of your scope, so please say so if that's the case. But they're trying to, I suppose, engage the local community. They're really keen about doing a wrap, and in particular there's some different opportunities that they see where local land councils have taken or have applied for claim on certain land which is very used by the outdoor industry. So they want to make sure that they've got that connection and ability to continue their programs and things in a collaborative way. They're sort of stumbling on the ability to have those conversations because claims are not finalised. Is there anything through the wrap process that you recommend that can help this process before any claim is confirmed?
It's hard for us to kind of be specifically involved in organisations and their specific, I guess, like the specific struggles that they're going through. It's definitely something that a lot of organisations go through, and I guess there can be, there can be kind of a fear or uncomfortable of organisations of not knowing where to start and not knowing what to say, not wanting to say the wrong things, not wanting to use the wrong language. There's so many complex things, and what we're here for as Reconciliation Australia is to really facilitate organisations to feel confident in their ability to do that. And through Reflect Wrap, you'll find that organisations really can do that. And honestly, I'd recommend for any organisations who are in positions like that is to reach out through the Wrap network to other organisations and to larger organisations as well in your industry who will have more experience in working in that space. And you'll find that the Wrap network is incredibly gracious in the support that they give to new organisations in this space. There's so many different touch points and contacts and so many amazing relationships that come out of it. So much collaborative learning, which is what we're all about.
You might have answered my next question with that, but I suppose I'm interested. My last question is just around, have you had any surprising outcomes of organisations that have gone down the wrap journey with the intention to obviously appreciate, connect and respond to traditional custodians, but has there been any surprising outcomes that, you know, other organisations should go, okay, well, that's something that I'd be interested in?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we see these connections, and we facilitate these connections between organisations all the time. I mean, my inbox is completely filled with organisations who want to connect with other organisations in the space and see the work that they're doing. I mean, at that kind of top level, like our Elevate Wrap partners, we have, I mean, ABC, I don't know if you've seen the work that ABC is doing around language. It's phenomenal. And SBS as well is doing such incredible work. And the way that those huge organisations that might not be related so much to the work that you're doing, but they filter down, and all this work that they've done in terms of connecting with the traditional owners and building those relationships filters down to how smaller organisations can engage in that process and begin to build those ongoing relationships with First Nations stakeholders and with traditional owners, because it's not a straightforward process. It's really about building those relationships of trust and within the community as well. So yeah, it's great to see what organisations can learn through being part of the Wrap network, definitely.
Yeah, brilliant. No, that's really great. Thanks so much, Billie. Has anyone got any questions for Billie while we've got this fountain of knowledge on our session this morning when it comes to reconciliation action plans? Actually, just looking at who's on screen here, Billie, how do people start that cover a whole state? when they're talking about liaising with traditional owners, I'm just noticing we've got Bushwalking New South Wales with us today, and obviously myself. You know, where do we start when we're trying to cover quite a large area?
Yeah, definitely a great question. Again, we recommend as a first point of call reaching out to your local Aboriginal land councils, and from there kind of facilitating and starting to build those relationships. It can be, I mean, as you said, this industry has an incredible scope in terms of the lands that you're working on, etc. And I guess building those relationships is so foundational, and you'll find it's just, yeah, that's
literally
definitely
trying to tick off every land council in New South Wales.
Yeah,
there's no sort of state authority on this. Okay, great.
Yeah,
Just seeing my work plan increase. Cool.
I'll jump right in there. Thanks, Laurie. I'm the said person from Bushwalking New South Wales, and so I have met a woman who said she was from the Yarraman clan. Does that and that they actually span across a number of Indigenous groups? Have you ever heard of Yarraman?
I haven't. Sorry, I can't help more.
Okay. Yeah, right. Okay, cool. Thank you.
The challenge with Aboriginal clan and something that I've been working a lot with in the outback is define borders as something that Europeans are very used to. When it comes to our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, their borders are a little bit more what's the word I'm looking for, Billie? Cross over quite a lot.
Yeah.
So that's why obviously the Aboriginal land claims can take quite a time to facilitate, purely because of that investigation and inquiry into exactly where clans have laid claim or conducted work and livelihood and all of that type of thing. It is not as clear cut as here is the border. It's an interesting thing, and you'll probably find that there is clan migration throughout several territories or nations.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, building those relationships, even the fact that you're having this conversation and you're thinking about this and you know this, it really shows that you have that initial knowledge, which is great. And it's great to be open and to be understanding. I mean, building these relationships is an ongoing and iterative and evolving process all the time. And there's so many different instances of meeting places of different lands and contested lands as well. It's complex, and it will always be complex, and organizations have to be ready to evolve and build those evolving relationships as you go through the process. So it's not I don't want to say, I mean, it's not easy, but it's important work, and it's why we're all here.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Brendan, you put your camera on. Did you have a question, or we?
Yeah. Hey, Billie, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. I guess I was just wondering, coming from working at a school, do we see a lot of schools getting involved in RAPs? Is there a specific sort of entry point from that perspective? I mean, we try to educate around Indigenous Australia as much as we can, and particularly I run the outdoor education program and really mindful of that. But yeah, I guess just your thoughts.
Yeah, it's great to hear from you, Brendan. So schools, we have so many schools involved in the program that we have we have a sister program for schools as well that are interested in developing RAP. So we work in partnership with them. Our platform's called Narragansett. So we have an entire team that's dedicated to working with schools and early learning centres as well, who are interested in developing RAPs. And I mean, I don't work with them very closely just due to my portfolios, but the work that they do is so incredible and so heartwarming. It's so wonderful to see schools that are doing work in this space. So I would really recommend, if you have any questions at all, just reach out to them. They're so lovely. They're such a lovely team.
Great.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. I figured there would be probably some sort of entry for school specific. So that sounds really great. Thanks so much for sharing.
No worries.
Brilliant. And Brendan's from the ACT too, so you can see that we've obviously got a mixture of New South Wales and ACT covered here. So having a national program makes it a hell of a lot easier than me jumping from legislation to legislation all the time. So that's great. Any other questions for Billie before we bid her farewell and thank her very much for the day? I think that's it, Billie. So thank you so much. That, yeah, it was really helpful. And certainly if you could pop in the chat your link to your website on where they can find those templates, I think that'd be great. And I'll actually take a snapshot of that and certainly share that in the next members newsletter as well. Thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you so much for having me. So lovely to meet you all. And I hope I see more of you in the future. If any questions come up or anything, just feel free to shoot me an email, Laurie, and I'm more than happy to answer anything as well.
Thanks so much, Billie. That's
Thank you so much, everyone.
Pleasure.
Have a good day.
Thank you. And for everyone left back on the call, is there anything that anyone wishes to talk about? I'm going to stop the recording.